Ready, set, go. Let's go to Greg. Hey, Lee, whatever happened to Billy Joe Tolliver, the quarterback we had before Stan Humphries? Great show, by the way.
It is a bleeping brilliant show. Billy Joe, cool guy. Played at Texas Tech, bounced around, was with the Chargers. Funniest story. So he was here as a late round draft pick, and he was a wild arm thrower. I used to kind of chuckle. I started to call him Billy Joe Overthrow. He was a competitive guy. He had flaming red hair.
Yeah.
Cool guy. Anyhow, so he was here during the era in which we were really devoid of quarterbacks. And he got the chance to start, but he was undersized. He would have been a great quarterback in Canada because he could run and he was undersized. He had a gun for an arm. He had the personality. Anyhow, he got traded. And I got wind from his agent that he was about to be traded. And I think they traded him to the Houston Oilers. And I'm on the air that night at 6:30. And I say, I've been told Billy Joe Tolliver is about to be traded to the Houston Oilers for a conditional draft pick. He was at a hamburger drive-in drive-through listening. He stopped and he dialed his phone up. And my producer answered it in the studio because he had the inside hotline number. Mm-hmm. And producer said, I can't hear you, Billy Joe. The woman giving you the hamburgers is talking to you. And he said, did I just get traded? And I said, yeah, you did. You went to the Houston Oilers. That's how we found out. It was funny because his agent couldn't find him. But anyhow, good guy. Billy Joe, I think, got into college coaching. I don't know if he went back to Texas Tech, maybe the small college ranks, maybe the high school ranks. But he was personality. He was persona squared. He was a firebrand. Good guy.
Well, I remember when he got drafted, Charger fans were really excited, because he could throw the ball a mile.
He had a gun. I think it was one of his first exhibition games. I want to say he threw for like 323.
Really?
In an exhibition game, played 3 quarters. He's just chucking it all over the field. But, getting in a game against the Washington Redskins, and that's Darryl Green back there picking off your passes and taking it back the other way. That's Hall of Fame Pro Bowl cornerback. So, good guy. He had his 15 minutes of fame, but fun personality.
Another question. I go back to that time frame of the late 80s, early 90s, before Humphries came, and there was a blur of quarterbacks. I remember there was Mark Malone, there was Craig Wheelahan. What was the sequence? Do you remember?
Mark Vlasic.
Oh, Vlasic
came from Purdue. He was the backup to Fouts. I got here. My first year as voice of the Chargers was Dan's last season, and everybody around him had already gone, and he was doing it by himself. And we were 8-1 out of the gate, and we lost our last 6. And he got hurt at the end of the season, and then he announced his retirement. Mark Vlasic was supposed to be the guy in waiting. He was a big 6'5" guy out of Purdue who could chuck it. And he had a beard, so everybody thought, it was the next Dan Fouts. He wasn't Dan Fouts. He was more Jim Everett than he was Dan Fouts. Nice man. And then we went through a series. I mean, we had journeymen like you wouldn't believe. We had a guy that played for the Lions. I think his name was Bob Galliano.
Oh, yeah.
We had Sean Salisbury came here, who I thought was going to do some really good things at USC. He had won a Grey Cup with the Winnipeg Blue Bombers in the Canadian football. He came down here, but he just wasn't a real difference maker. We just went through quarterback after quarterback after quarterback. And Spanos wanted him to draft Wheelahan, who played at the University of Pacific in Stockton in Spanos Stadium. And Craig, I did a game. It was the year after the Chargers had left our station, and I had gone to Seattle to do the Seahawks. And Wheelahan was still with the Chargers with Ryan Leaf. And they came to the Kingdome early in the season. And Wheelahan and Leaf threw 6 interceptions in one game. Ooh. And I'm sitting there doing the Seahawks broadcast. And these guys are throwing perfect out patterns to our cornerbacks, to the Seahawk cornerbacks.
Wow.
And they're taking the balls back. And I looked into the coach's booth, and the quarterback coach at that time was a good guy, former head coach at New Mexico, who I got along with, Mike Shepard. I looked at him, and he looked at me, and he shook his head because he was not a Leaf fan. Those dudes threw 6 picks in one game. The Seahawks we killed them.
Wow. That was a rough time to be a Charger fan. You brought up Bob Galliano, and I'd forgotten about him, but Jim Harbaugh was also at that time too.
McMahon was here for 15 minutes because he was at the end of his career, but they brought him in and he was offbeat. He was really different. And he didn't practice. It was weird. We played a preseason game in Chicago, and they traded for him the day before. He met the team at the team hotel. So I talked to him, introduced myself, blah, blah, blah. And he played that next game. had not practiced with the team. And he completed like his first 5 passes. Now they're all dumping runs and safety valves and all that. But he was so beat up by the time he got there, and he didn't have much of an arm left too. But boy, he was uniquely different too. He marched to the beat of a really different drum.
Didn't he have he had to wear those sunglasses?
Yeah, because he had eye injury as a youngster growing up.
Wow. But he was great with the Bears, man. That was a good time.
Oh, well, that was, thank you, Refrigerator Perry and Mike Singletary, Mike Ditka. That was defense, pal. And Sweetness, Walter Payton.
Right.
But if you go back, I don't know how you would do it. Google San Diego Chargers quarterbacks. Started in 1987, Fouts' last year. And just go and run through the list of names. You won't believe who they were, where they came from, and what happened to the team. Because we had all those 4-12 seasons and 6-10s and all that. And it was with all these journeymen. And then Bobby Beathard came on board, and he stole Humphreys from Washington in a trade. And I knew who Humphreys was, but Washington had hit him on injured reserve the year before and kind of had dropped the hint that he had a blood disorder. And Humphrey said, bull crap. They just hid me on IR. So he came here and he was totally healthy. And he had a couple of really vibrant years till he got the concussion. He never, ever played again. So anyhow, Humphreys obviously then led to the wave of great players that they brought in, which, obviously had to do with Phillip Rivers and then obviously Justin Herbert.
Wow. I mean, so many eras in college or in Charger football.
End of the day, pal, you better have a quarterback. If you don't have a quarterback, good luck to you finding a quarterback.
Yeah, Craig Wheelahan. Okay, let's go here to Jeff. He says, I have a feeling the Dodgers might let down come playoff time.
Well, they got to get healthy. They have virtually no pitching staff right now. At one point last week, every one of their starters in the rotation on opening day was gone. Most of them injured. And then they released or traded James Paxton. But they're going to get some guys back. Kershaw, it's just going to take time. They need to be patient. He doesn't look like the same guy, but he needs to build strength and pitch count. Yamamoto, I believe by first of next week, is going to go out on a rehab start. So maybe he's had no setbacks. He's doing bullpens now. So maybe he comes back and he comes back on a pitch count. We got to see more progress from Buehler. We have not seen that yet. There's a young pitcher, Michael Grove, who just finished up rehab in Oklahoma City. He probably could get called back. So at the end of the day, this is not an excuse. It's a reality. I told John, he almost fell off the chair. The Dodgers have had 33 different pitchers this season from opening day to August 1st. 33 because of all the injuries. And the Dodgers have had 17 pitchers on the disabled list. And then you add into that, no Mookie Betts, who's about to come back, and no Max Muncy, who they still don't think is ready to come back. I mean, that's a significant number of cornerstone guys. And then Freddie Freeman left the team last week because his son has a serious viral infection and is still in the hospital. He's a 3-year-old boy. So he's been away from the club. So, the Dodgers we saw here were a fragment of what the Dodgers were effective on opening day. But between now and October 1st, they're going to get some of these arms back, and then we'll see. And the Flaherty acquisition is huge to me.
Yeah, well, but he wasn't so sharp at the end of last season when he got dealt, Flaherty.
Right.
So again, who knows?
Yeah, but 2.59, that's legitimacy.
Well, now, yeah, he's doing really well.
He's back to what he was with the Cardinals. In his first 3 years of the Cardinals, he was very good.
Oh yeah, I remember those years. Yeah. I was surprised he's only 28 years old now. So, but I know as a Padre fan, I'm thinking everyone's all fired up. They just swept the 2-game series with the Dodgers, but you just know, like in 30 days. The tide's going to turn and the Dodgers are going to be dominating again. And I'm worried about who's going to get the last laugh.
No. So you're giving ground already. I mean, at the start here, you were printing World Series tickets. Padres' best bullpen in baseball. We'll see if they can buy innings from their starters. These guys are going to continue to hit. But I do agree with you. The chemistry of the Dodgers is going to change sometime in the month of August. And we'll just see if they get everybody back. If they do, then it's a brand new ball game. If they don't, the Padres are in a position right now to plant their flag in first place and have everybody chase them.
Wow. Well, they got 4.5 to go to catch up. Let's go to 4RXLA. The Padres have a real chance to take the division lead this month as the Dodgers continue to slump and Dave Roberts continues to mishandle his pitching staff and lineup. Fire Dave Roberts.
Fire you for XRLA. Come on. It's not Roberts' fault that all these guys are hurt. He can only manage what's given to him on the roster. I do agree with John. It's few and far between this happens. I do agree that the Dodgers will be different probably in 15 days. But the Padres might be in first place in 15 days. Understand this. These next 15 games are against the Rockies, the Marlins, and the Pirates. San Diego's got a chance to grab first place by the throat, and then everybody will be chasing them. But there's still some things that could happen which will kind of rally the Dodgers back. And getting Mookie Betts back, they think by next week, might be by Monday. He's taken full batting practice now with a hand injury. Getting Betts back will be huge. Muncy, I don't think we're going to see for a while, if not at all this season.
Do you think Betts plays shortstop when he comes back?
No, they're going to put the dude in right field. That's what I was told. And
really?
That was a byproduct of the trades. That's why they made the trade for Edman. That's why they trade for Rosario's glove, second and short.
Okay.
See, if you connect the dots, you read my website every day, you'd know this shtick.
Yeah, I would. Yeah, I mean, unbelievable when those guys come back.
Now, don't blame Dave Roberts yet. Go ahead. Next question.
Okay, let's go to Andrew. All caps, Hacksaw. Here we go. Rancho Bernardo, react. The Friars just beat the Dodgers in a 2-game series. Are you planning to attend the victory parade? Pick up the bleeping phone and tell me how you are celebrating. Call me on the little brother line.
Well, it's nice to have an RB neighbor who follows our podcast. And what did I say? What did I say on Monday? What was the words coming out of my mouth on Monday that were echoing in my ears? Beat LA, beat LA.
Yeah.
So, nice accomplishment. They kicked a cripple while the cripple was down. You got to beat whoever's on the schedule these next 15 games. God, if they went 15-0, pennant race would be over. Now, I don't think go 15-0 because we do have some recent history here about their struggles against Miami and Pittsburgh, and Rockies beat them 3 in a row. But I don't think that's going to happen. This series, the pennant race could be over in the next 15 days if the Padres go 15-0.
Well, will they? I don't know. You know who else is on the schedule coming up? I think in September, the White Sox. So you've got a lot of the dregs that are now Pittsburgh's legit this year. Yeah, wow. I mean, just what an exciting time here. Let's move on. Like more Padre Dodger talk. This is from John. Lost in all the news and talk about AJ's moves is how Mike Schilt has focused the Padres clubhouse on being team first rather than look at the back of my baseball card.
Not bad. Not a bad call. I think success begets success. I think these guys see chemistry. They see results, and that's why they're playing really well. But think about this, and this is kind of rocketed through my skull. The Padres are on the brink of being back in the pennant race, and they've hung. I mean, they played really well, won 9 of their last 12. They're doing this without starters 1, starters 2, and Tatis.
Yeah,
that's pretty impressive. And although I've been critiquing AJ for trading the farm system away again, his acquisitions, whether that's Solano or that's the right fielder, or whether it's the pitchers that he's picked up. I mean, he has made probably 5 to 6 acquisitions. You say, wow, these guys are all contributing. The catcher they got from the Yankees, Higashioka, holy cow, what a season he's had as an insurance policy guy and settling pitchers down on the mound. So, I mean, AJ, for the first time, has been able to sight, scope, and sign utility men who have really made a difference on this roster when they needed them. That is Solano wrapping the ball down the third base line for the game-winning hit against Dodger Blue. So you go through their roster, just punch up their roster, and you can check off probably 5 or 6 names of, quote, fringe acquisitions that have made a big difference.
I think the catching combination of Campusano and Higashioka, and those are 2 last names right there, they're like the second most productive catching duo of in Major League Baseball, if I read that right. So it's fabulous how well everyone's doing. But let's talk about Mike Schilt, because I really like his vibe. And when, granted, he sometimes is not quite as transparent in his press conferences, but you always can tell he's protecting his guys. He's not throwing his guys under the bus. It makes me wonder how different it must have been last year with Bob Melvin. And maybe was Melvin a problem?
I don't know. Was Melvin a problem? I think it was a tolerance level that Preller's people, I was told this, Preller's people told Melvin, you're not going to go into the clubhouse. You're not going to beat these guys up. In essence, the players ran the damn clubhouse, and the players didn't listen to the manager. And part of that might have been Machado, and part of that might have been Soto. Maybe the bigger part of that was Soto in terms of his standoffish. I am in my own world. My own world is a $500 million contract a year from now, and all that. but they've kind of focused. Now, I've been told from players that Schilt delivers a really stern message in that clubhouse, a very different set of things that he says to them when they were all getting their ass thrown out on the bases. We had that whole stretch of pickoffs and tossed out at third and gunned down at the plate. And why the hell are you doing this? That they have solved that situation for the most part.
Mm-hmm.
So I think the message from Schilt inside is a lot sterner and carries a lot more clout because he's telling them what needs to be done. And I think they're paying attention because they see the results because they're winning. Whereas last year, Melvin got no space at all from Preller, and this is how you have to do it, and you can't do this and you can't do that. Well, that doesn't work. Stay out of my clubhouse. I'm the manager.
Well, Schilt knows his place, with AJ. There's no friction going up to the front office. Let's go next here to Derek. And Derek says, you got to be an absolute bastard to own an MLB team in Florida, it appears.
Shocked to me when they put the expansion team, when they put the Marlins in there to begin with, I thought this is going to be a raging success. The Latin American influence in South Florida is phenomenal. How many people live there, have moved there from everywhere, be it Latin America, Central America, South America, those who came from Cuba. And what's their sport? Their sport's baseball. And I thought Florida Marlins baseball, it was then known, was just going to be a gangbuster success. And it was actually. They went to the World Series with Jim Leland, and then ownership said, price to do this is too steep. And then that's where the word fire sale started. And they've just never, ever recovered from it. And they got a brand new stadium. It's a dome stadium. Before you played in the heat and humidity, and the weather was really brutal in South Florida. And over in Tampa, that's a whole different situation. That's a huge, massive retirement community. And they played in a dumpy stadium, Tropicana Field. It used to be called the Sun Dome. It's located right at the edge of a bridge. There's no parking. And I would have thought, because there's so many transplants living on the west coast of Florida, I don't think it's called the Gold Coast, but so many transplants.
Yeah, it is. I think it is the Gold Coast.
Sun Coast.
Sun Coast.
I didn't cut geography class. So many transplants from the Northeast, I thought this would be tremendous. But then it dawned on me the demographics aren't right. That the older generation does not want to get into rush hour traffic, have to fight their way over the bridge from St. Pete's or fight all that traffic in Tampa. And traffic in Tampa is god-awful. As bad as San Diego or LA. And there's no place to park near Tropicana Field, the Sun Dome. So that was a real big issue there. And then the team wasn't good early. Then the team got really good and still not appreciated. Their TV ratings are through the roof. Everybody stays home. Senior citizens, retirees, stay home and watch Rays baseball on TV, but they don't go to the ballpark. Outside of the Oakland A's, Tampa's probably one of the lowest drawing teams in all of Major League Baseball. And now they're going to get a new stadium. It's going to be on the other side of the bridge in St. Petersburg, but St. Petersburg has much bigger tradition in baseball because that's where the Cardinals and Yankees were in spring training, and they have a much better following. So I'm shocked. I'm shocked at South Florida how bad it is. I'm really stunned at Miami because I would have thought with the Latin American population base, which is huge and it's their game, but they've not put their arms around it because they haven't been very good since Jim Leland's early years when they won.
Well, it's not just the Latin American community in Florida or the seniors that retire, but there's just a general exodus in America from the north to the south. And in fact, in many ways, from California to Texas and California to Florida. Mm-hmm. So there's a lot of movement. You would expect those teams to perform better. Miami got a new stadium and they didn't start drawing better, so I'm afraid that if they do this in Tampa, St. Pete, it's going to end up being a dud anyways. But the best news, I think, of all for when it comes to Florida baseball is at least the Miami Marlins got rid of that structure statue thing in the outfield.
The architectural thing.
Yeah, what the hell was that?
That was something to salute the Latin American influence in South Florida. It was weird because it was located in left center field. It was just really weird.
Yeah, it was weird. I just didn't get it.
But, the franchises, Tampa's franchise owners were terrible to begin with. Now they have a new owner who's done a very good job, except for what happened at the trading deadline. And Miami's ownership's just been garbage for a long period of time. Ever since the first owner elected to opt out, this franchise has not accomplished very much. And if you don't have good ownership, you don't have good product, I'm not coming. And it's kind of sad. Move on. Next question.
Moving on. Let's go to David. Talk Olympics here. Simone Biles is the GOAT. Her story will make a great motion picture someday.
Gold medal for the person. She's 27 years of age. She's the oldest gymnast to win a gold. She won another gold today. The oldest gymnast to win a gold since 1952. She's phenomenal as an athlete. And you watch her now, and I mean, she's matured and grown. Of course, she's married. She married a Philadelphia Eagles player. She is so different, so intellectual, so vibrant, and has experienced so much in life. And like I said, she deserves a gold medal for becoming the persona, the face, and the voice. I need mental health. It's a hell of a job.
Well, think about how she took time off. And I know that was a big thing when that went down. But she just proved that if you just take time off, recharge the batteries, kind of get reoriented.
With the right people helping you.
With the right people, and you can come back and be as good or even better than you used to be.
Yeah, I concur with you wholeheartedly. I mean, it's a phenomenal human interest story. David, great comment. And David agrees with me. He'll sign the memo. She deserves a gold medal for what she's doing on behalf of mental health.
I agree.
We move on.
Well, just another quick one from David. He goes, hey, I got my new doors at Dixieline. Well, my contractor did, but I got to choose what I wanted.
Very good.
So see how all this works.
We told you how it works. Next question.
Okay, let's go to Chris. I've become so tired of hearing Dodger fans talking about how when Kershaw is back, the rotation will be solid. Amazing pitcher, but he's done. Without A.J. Preller handing them River Ryan for all the world of Matt Beattie, their season might be over. Sad to watch Kershaw dotting the radar gun with 88-mile-per-hour heaters.
Well, let's be respectful of what he's accomplished. He's probably going to the Hall of Fame. You know, I don't recall what his career record is now, but it was staggering. It was like 188 and 82 over the course of his career. And a lot of innings, a lot of strikeouts, and you wake up and you're hurt. And he's been hurt now with multiple things last couple of years. But let's not disrespect him. He's a hell of a guy. What he's done for charity in LA, what he does back in Dallas-Fort Worth. He's a great family man. So I hate to see him struggle, and maybe this will indeed be his last year. He jokes, they ask him how he's feeling. He said, well, I'm okay, but I have old guy's arm, which is I'm 38 and I've had all these surgeries and all that. So, but respect the player and the person, because he's meant a hell of a lot to baseball as a representative of the game.
Yeah, well, as a Giants and Padres fan, I guess I've been jealous, because he's just been so good for those teams. But don't you like his windup? And it's a very unique windup. You don't really see many players putting their hands way up above their head like that.
And then he rocks on his delivery.
Yeah.
He's been a great pitcher for a long time, but there are only so many bullets in the gun.
Only so many bullets. Hey, let's go to our O Canada line, talk football. This is from Yin. Hey, how is Nathan Rourke doing so far in Atlanta?
Well, Nathan Rourke was in the Giants camp and just got released. Now, he's moved around. Nathan Rourke, and I know Nathan Rourke, he went to my alma mater, Ohio University, set all the passing records, went to Canada. He's a Canadian-born kid out of Toronto. Nathan went to the BC Lions and played 1 year, and his numbers were phenomenal. He was ideally made. And he came south, and he signed, I think the first free agent contract he signed was with Jacksonville. And then he was in New England. Then he was with the Giants. I don't know if he's in Atlanta right now or had been released prior by Atlanta before he went to there. He just got released again. I'm not going to say that he's in the wrong place, but he's the third or fourth quarterback on virtually everybody's roster, and they never get the chance to play. They do make a little bit of money when they're on the developmental squad, but it's not great. So you have to make the decision if you're Nathan Rourke. I can go back to Canada, my home country, and I could be a star. Now, he'd only make $300,000 or $400,000 because there's a cap in Canada and they pay differently. But he could go home and just be a legend. Here, he's on the waiver wire twice or three times a year. So he has to make a tough decision. But good kid. He was a great college quarterback at Ohio U, a Bobcat. And what he did in 1 year with the BC Lions is phenomenal. So, sometime he'll get tired of being moved and never really getting a chance to play and grow, unless it's just in it to be the third quarterback on somebody's developmental squad and get $240,000 a year, unless you get elevated to the big roster. But fine kid. His brother was a fine kid. His brother followed him at Ohio U and did really well and just transferred because of the NIL, went to Indiana University as a grad student for his final year. But good kid. That's a long story about my alma mater. But
Well, you were talking about there was another Rourke kid. Was it the brother or
Yeah.
that was at Ohio?
Yeah, they're both back to back. They're there at the same time.
Oh, right on.
And Nathan graduated in the backup. His brother replaced him for a year and a half.
So there really is a big difference between the NFL and the CFL.
Oh,
Yeah, I mean,
layers.
So which do you think is a lower level of football, the
Canadian
Canadian
League.
or the
No,
European?
Canadian League. The NFL has the elite.
Yeah, well, of course the NFL is at the top, but the Canadian or the European League?
Well, there is no European League anymore.
Oh, okay.
It used to be NFL Europe.
Right.
Yeah, but that was a notch below the CFL. CFL is a good place. They've got athletes. They're self-made athletes. They don't have marquee names any longer. Once upon a time, they did. They had Warren Moon. They had Flutie. They had Joe Theismann. Those guys were there for a couple of short periods of time, earned some money, made reps, proved they could play, came to the States and did very, very well. But their economics are different, and it's just really hard to pay marquee dollars to lure guys across the border. Plus, they have the import rule. I think you can only have 18 Americans on your team out of a roster of maybe 33, 38 maybe now. They have a smaller roster. It's a different game, though. It's a speed game. It's an open field game. It's not as physical. It's still football. They do hit and they do tackle, but it's not what the National Football League is. But again, the NFL's fame and the NFL's fortune, and guys want to be in the NFL. And I have no problem with my guy Nathan Rourke wanting to try his hand in Jacksonville with the Jaguars. But after 4 years, having been cut 6-7 times and been on all these different developmental rosters, you just never get a chance to play. What do you want to do with the rest of your life? Whereas there is an alternative. You could go back to Canada and really be a superstar.
Yeah. Remember Rocket Ishmael?
Yes.
Okay. And so remember he had a brother who I think they called him the Missile. Was it Quadre?
Yes.
But didn't one of them play in the CFL?
Yeah, Rocket went to the Toronto Argonauts.
That's what it was.
Yeah, and then I think he came back and played, but he had injury problems. Quadre played for a couple good years. He was explosive. He had injury problems too.
I like how they called their mom the launching pad.
Yeah.
That's good stuff. Okay. Hey, let's move on down the list here. Let's go to Tim. Lee, John, the Padres are playing good baseball, but this fan base needs a reality check. Lots of questions about Darvish, Musgrove, Tatis's return. The wild card race is tight, and there's a lot of baseball to be played. Team needs to take 2 or 3 from Colorado this weekend minimum. In other words, let's not book the downtown parade just yet.
There are a lot of people running around the street cheering, but in defense, Tim, let's be realistic. These dudes are now in the fight for first place, and they've done it without Darvish, without Musgrove, and without El Nino. That's pretty impressive. And like I say, you just go pull up. When we're done with this podcast, you just pull up and check off how many role players have stepped in here that Preller has brought in here that have really made a difference and contributed. And it's pretty impressive. But you're correct. Everybody's got 55 games to play, and we'll see how it sort itself out. But, pal, they got 15 games against the dregs in baseball. Geez, what would this podcast be like if they went 15-0? Wow.
Yeah, but see, they've been like this 500 team, and they tease you, and they beat the good teams, and they lose 3 out of 4 to the Rockies. And it drove us mad. And now they're riding another hot streak. I'm just hoping they can continue it.
Can you just please tell me, are you printing World Series tickets yet? Because every other time you open your mouth, you say something different.
Well, because this Padre team is different every week, it seems.
Thanks for the input, Tim. Go ahead.
Let's go to Justin, talk Chargers here. Hacksaw, I asked a few months ago if the Chargers made a mistake not drafting a quarterback. You responded, quote, the success of the Chargers will not rest on a backup quarterback. Now we're stuck with your favorite QB, Stick, shaking my head.
Well, we hope that Justin Herbert's arch injury, plantar fasciitis, is not going to be serious, that there's nothing torn down there. If it's torn, that's a real significant injury. If it's just strained, you can solve that because they've got themselves another good 5 weeks of training camp. But they don't have quarterback problems. Nobody's got great backup quarterbacks. Salary cap does not allow you to have marquee backup quarterbacks. You're going to spend your money on running backs and wide receivers, and they got salary cap issues. I mean, they're paying volumes of money to a whole bunch of players, making big time dough. And only time will tell whether or not they've got the running backs to replace Austin Eckler, who's making jack, and whether or not they can replace Keenan Allen, Mike Williams with what they've got. And what they're paying defensive, they're paying a lot of money to Derwin James, Bosa, Khalil Mack. So this might be the last year they're going to be able to keep that core of marquee guys together on the roster. But Let's just hope that Herbert's injury is not bad. And if Easton Stick has to be the guy, he's going to have to prove himself, because he played last year when Herbert finally went down after all the injuries, and he could move him up and downfield. He just could not get him into the end zone. But again, that was a quarterback-driven offense. This is going to be a running game defense type of franchise where they ask the quarterback to make some plays but not carry the whole thing. I think it'll be a different team.
Are LA fans warming up to the Chargers?
They seem to think so. Proof will be in the pudding. When they start playing all these teams in the regular season, is the stadium overwhelmed by Raider fan, guys wearing Green Bay colors, Pittsburgh black and gold?
Yeah.
Then we'll find out. The Chargers have a bunch of answers. They have Harbaugh, they had Herbert, but there's a bunch of answers they must get. Rams are a proven commodity. What McVay has done and what many thought was going to be rebuild transition, they've jumped ahead of the power curve on that. And their last 2 drafts have been really good, and all those guys are playing. And as long as they keep Matthew Stafford standing upright, and so far they've done a good job with this new group, they're going to be good. They're going to be good in the NFC. And jury is still a little bit out how good the Chargers can be in the AFC.
NFL's right around the corner, Lee.
Oh, well, first preseason game is tonight.
Hall of Fame game.
Hall of Fame game. Chicago, Houston. Not that anybody of name is going to play. But, then we start next week, and I'll start the 3 preseason games. And we roll towards Labor Day weekend and the start of the season, second week, September.
All right, let's go to social media.
Do it.
Okay, do it. All right, let's go here. And this is from Frank Dad, and talking about Padres. Last week, you said they were done, Hack. Now you're saying in 2 years, the World Series. I'm glad you're not the weatherman.
I'd be better than some of the weathermen that I've worked with on TV here. Franchise was staggering. I think you'd agree with me. During some of the spurts, you'd say, damn, same old, underachieving. Now they're playing well. Now they beat up the Dodgers. Now they've almost caught the Dodgers. So they're back in it. If they can get Tatis back, we still don't know when. And Musgrove is throwing his first rehab game Sunday in Rancho Lake Elsinore.
Mm-hmm.
If he's going to need 2 to 3 rehab starts. If he can do that without any problem, then they bring him back. Maybe they bring him back as just a long reliever, or maybe a short starter and a bullpen day. But the makeup of the roster right now is a lot better than the makeup was 10 days ago, which is a lot better than it was when Darvish and Tatis and Musgrove all disappeared. So I'm not the flag blowing in the wind that changes his opinion. I'm just reacting to what I see in certain chunks of time.
So let's pretend that all the injured players that are expected to come back this year come back and perform at the level that we expect them to be for both the Dodgers and the Padres. So we're not counting Shohei Ohtani as a pitcher. We're not talking about guys that are gone for the year like Dustin May. Do you think that the Padres can go head-to-head with the Dodgers when everyone's at full strength?
If everybody's at full strength, the Dodgers are still probably the first-place team. But because the Padres now have the best bullpen in baseball, and if you do get Darvish and Musgrove back for whatever value they have, then the Dodgers are Dodgers are not running away with the pennant race. The Padres are a lot closer to the Dodgers if everybody is back healthy. I still think the Dodgers are superb. Padres would be knocking at the door right behind them.
And speaking of right behind them, this wild card race, there's loaded. I mean, there's like 8 or 9 teams going for 3 spots.
We've got 60 days to go.
Mm-hmm.
And, Arizona, nobody's talked about the D-backs. They're only about a half game or a game back of the Padres. And see, everybody has games in hand on the Padres because Padres have played so many games on the schedule. That's going to be an issue. And Arizona, based on getting Josh Bell, and Arizona, based on getting 2 more relief pitchers to solve what was a big hole, suddenly Arizona is a very different team going forward. And then I'm not sure where Atlanta is. Atlanta's got so many injuries, and they play well in stretches. They don't play well in stretches. So, there's some other dogs in the other divisions that have probably put their hat in this wild card race before this thing is over.
Yeah, this is a great time.
Oh, it's pretty good.
This is fantastic. Okay, got another Padre comment here. This is from Ray. He says, Padres are playing good ball. This is fun. Hello, Lee from Republic, Missouri. Profar is having an awakening. Cronenworth, a wonderful surprise. Machado is heating up. Merrill is scary.
Pretty good collection. And, nobody would have seen this from the $1 million man, Profar, who was on waivers up until the end. And finally, the Padres re-signed him at a lower price. Nobody could have ever seen that. Jake's bounced back. Nobody expected Merrill. Everybody expected Merrill to be in El Paso all year. All of a sudden, Window gets a chance to learn to play center field. Kids never look back. I mean, he's He's wired differently. This stage is not too big for him. And some of the home runs he's hit have been monster shots with monster importance to helping him get victory. So, like I say, it's just a lot of pleasant stuff going on with Friar Baseball. Now bolstered by what AJ just spent to rent all these guys for this push to the pennant.
Yeah, and Merrill's a homegrown guy, which we don't have very many of, which is nice. But give it up here to Ray. So many of your listeners throughout the years, they've moved on from San Diego, but they're all reconnecting with you here on the podcast, like this guy here from Missouri.
Yeah, it's amazing how many people have been deported. But it's interesting though. Social media allows people to follow you or find you. I got guys I went to school with, graduate school back in the day, said, "You're out on San Diego. I just found you. Where you been?" And well, careers take you all over the planet, so it's kind of funny. And so I got longtime friends that don't agree with the crap that I'm saying on the air, but they're following the crap that I'm saying on the air, and they do like you.
Okay. Thanks. Thank goodness for that. Hey, let's talk umpires here. This is from David. Human umps are as much of a part of the game as the players themselves. Sometimes you get the call, sometimes they get the call. Also, multiple stoppages to play for reviews is counter to all of their recent efforts to speed up the game. No thanks.
Well, I guess I'll argue with you. The whole strike zone thing is so out of control, so erratic, so inconsistent. This moving home plate thing. You never know what you're going to get from umpire to umpire. You never know what you get from crew to crew. You got to fix it somehow. Human element is part of the game. I agree. Pitcher leaves one out in the middle of the plate. It winds up second deck in left center field. That's the human element of the game. Machado doesn't pick up a ground ball or throws one over the first baseman's head. Human element. Umpires make mistakes, make calls. But the inconsistency and inadequacy to define what home plate is in balls and strikes, it's glaring. It's terrible. And even though we got rid of Angel Hernandez, who is a disgrace as an umpire, we haven't solved the problem at all. So I'm not in favor of robo-ump. My AAA players don't like it. But if we can use computers for instant replay challenges only on balls and strikes, and you only get 3 or maybe you only get 5 instant replay challenges, get the call right at the most important part of the time. You're not going to use a challenge in the second inning of a game. You're using it in the 8th when the bases are loaded and you think the guy got ball 4 instead of strike 3. So it'll be there, but I don't think the interruptions are going to be extended.
I think some people still have a vision in their head of that Norman Rockwell painting of an umpire. Have you ever seen that one? And so people kind of naturally think about that as part of the history of the game. But darn it, they got to get it right. Like you said, these balls and strikes are ridiculous. But let's take a tangent here. I was just thinking in my head of memorable umpire moments in Major League Baseball history. And the one that always makes me laugh is when Jim Niekro, not Phil Niekro, but when he
Joe Niekro.
Joe Niekro, that's right. I knew Jim Niekro didn't sound right. Joe Niekro got busted. And he had that nail file in his back pocket, and that one umpire kind of looked over his shoulder. I mean, do you remember any kind of fun ump moments like that?
Not specifically, but I remember unbelievable personalities.
Mm-hmm.
I interviewed Emmett Ashford, who was the first African-American umpire. He was really dynamic guy, personality. Interviewed Ron Luciano, big, burly. Mm-hmm. He was phenomenal. Now, I grew up in a different era. I grew up when the umpires wore the big chest protectors behind the plate and didn't say anything except strike, ball. So there have been some really good umpires, real personality. Cowboy Joe West was just off the charts. I mean, it's so much fun to talk to him. Mm-hmm. I don't know if he equated to being a great manager, but he was a great personality. So, but I'm like you, get the damn call right. I sit there, I watch Padre baseball nonstop, and favorite thing, might not even be watching a game. I might be doing something on my laptop, and all I hear is Mark Grant say, "Thank you."
Yeah.
Which meant it was a bad call. They got a strike.
Yeah. It's a strike. I'm not sure there was. Yeah, that was or Solo always says. The other umpire moment I remember was the George Brett Pine Tar game.
Oh, yeah.
And the umpires, they're having their little conference there. But it's interesting. And then there was the other umpire what was his last name? Doyle, that made the bad call on the perfect game for the kid from the Detroit Tigers. So Well, Jim Joyce, not Doyle,
Yes.
Joyce. And so, there's been a number of times that umpires, you want them to be invisible, but they become visible.
Well, I want them to become consistent. And if they got a little zing and persona, that's okay. But this home plate thing, it's like a freaking epidemic.
Yeah.
I think it really hurts the game. And there's no consistency at all. Back in the day, 10 years ago, well, that's a National League strike zone, or this is an American League strike zone. Well, now they're all amalgamated. They all work together, and there are no two different sets of umpires. There shouldn't be two different strike zones. We have damn home plate that keeps moving. In defense of the guy in blue behind home plate, you watch how wicked the stuff is these guys throw and the bite and the movement of the ball.
Yeah.
And you add into that with the players ducking. So the strike zone gets a little tougher to call vis-a-vis Aaron Judge size. And the strike zone gets hard because Luis Campusano's moving all over the place trying to frame things and blocking your view. It's much harder to umpire because the pitcher is so dynamic right now. But you got to find a solution.
It's got to be hard. I mean, imagine, these umpires are not spring chickens either. They're gray-haired guys like you and me, and they're back there dealing with this, and they're getting foul tips that are hitting them on the head or on the arm or the leg. I mean, that's brutal.
And nobody likes them either.
Yeah.
So I'm going to plagiarize what you said. Get it right.
Get it right. Yeah, that's all we want.
Okay, a couple more here before we wrap this up.
All right, let's talk here. This is a little angel talk from the Rap Album Depot. He says, Tatis and Trout are the most overrated ball players I have ever seen. The ghost of Babe Ruth does more for clubhouse unity in San Diego and Anaheim than these two fellas.
Well, they've been hurt. I mean, El Nino has had 3 major injuries now over the course of his career, plus the drug suspension. Trout has probably had 4 significant injuries from playing hard. So I never hold it against players if they get hurt playing the game the way the game should be played. But it's too bad because Trout, I mean, what you've seen statistically from him, that might have been a Hall of Fame player who's just been dry docked by so many different injuries. And Tatis has had bad luck and complicated it by making bad decisions. It'd be nice to see if El Nino could have 4 straight years staying totally healthy, if he could come back to be what he was prior to the wrist injury, prior to the bad decision in the motorcycle, prior to the bad decision with the PED. Because he hit 42 home runs before he got hurt.
Mm-hmm.
He's never quite come back to that. And Trout just can't stay on the field. He's a really good player and a really good person.
Trout's a mystery to me why he's not playing and with the injuries and why in the heck he wants to stay there in Anaheim. But, Tatis, it seems to me that he has matured this year particularly. Before he got hurt, you could see that in his approach to the plate and in a lot of his interviews. And now we still see him in the dugout and he's still there with his guys. He's still having fun as a young man, but he's not quite the kid that's, kind of acting immature in the dugout.
Well, when they met with him post PED suspension, they just flat out told him, you will get a second chance. They did not tell him it would be his last chance, but they inferred to him, there will be no more mistakes. And you're going to rehab in San Diego. You're not going to rehab in the Dominican. And you're not going to go home and live there in the off season because there's a lot of junk that he was involved in off the field. And he's taken it to heart. And I think one of the lasting things is that Peter Seidler's imprint probably touched Fernando Tatis. Only time will tell whether he can come back and actually be what he was, or was he what he was because he was doing stuff to make him a better ball player. That story is still kind of out there, still to be solved.
Well, my hunch is that he was a natural talent, and I'm willing to give him a little bit of slack on that one, on the PED thing. It was a stupid ass thing to do. But if he was just doing it to hopefully recover quicker, I'm going to give him a little slack. Now, granted, I'm biased. I'm a Padre fan, and I want him to perform. But when he comes back, hopefully September, man, that Padre outfield is going to be special.
Yeah, I'll be intrigued to see if he could string together 3 years of health, if he could be what he was prior. He's a good ball player. No argument there. Could he be a great ball player? Well, great ball players win Gold Gloves and hit 280 and hit 42 home runs. They don't hit 24 home runs, hit 250.
Well,
and that's kind of what he's debilitated into. But again,
Tatis has a platinum glove, not just a gold glove. Now he's legit. He's going to be fine. Just got to come back from this injury.
Cheerleader.
I am.
And wear a skirt when we do the podcast on Monday.
Okay.
Hey, listen, we hope you have enjoyed our extended podcast on a